Hey y'all, welcome back to Questions and Answers, a series where we're asking important questions about our faith in Jesus and we're working through what the answers to those questions are. And today we're gonna expand on the conversation we had in the last video. So in the last one, we just gave an overview of what the law of God in the Ten Commandments is. And today we're gonna zoom in on some of those commands and dig in a little bit deeper. So the question today is this: what does God require in the first, second, and third commandments? What does God require in the first, second, and third commandments? And so the answer is this: first, that we know and trust God as the only true and living God. Second, that we avoid all idolatry and do not worship false gods. And third, that we treat God's name with fear and reverence, honoring also his words and his works. If we look at Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 13 and 14, it says this: "It is the Lord your God you shall fear. Him you shall serve, and by his name you shall swear. You shall not go after other gods, the gods of the peoples who are around you." And so that word fear can be a little bit confusing. We shouldn't be terrified of God, but a healthy fear and reverence of God is required to serve and worship him, to understand his might, to understand his wrath, so that when we submit to him, we do so with an understanding that he is in control and we are not in control. These first three commandments are all about how we relate to God himself. They're not about our behavior with others. Not yet. We're going to get to those commands. But today they're about our hearts before God himself. The theologian Charles Spurgeon once said that we tend to make gods after our own liking. We shape God in our minds to fit our preferences, our culture, our desires. But the God of the Bible, the one true God, he's not like us. He's holy, he's just, merciful, full of truth, and he can't be domesticated or redesigned. The first commandment says, "You shall have no other gods before me." God must be the only one we trust, fear, and love above all. The second commandment tells us not to make idols. In other words, don't worship a version of God that suits your imagination. Don't worship him, or do worship him for who he really is, not who you wish him to be. That includes avoiding things that take God's place in your heart, whether it be success, relationships, money, things, worshiping yourself, as we can do so easily in pride. The third commandment says not to misuse God's name. And this is a lot deeper than just a conversation about language. We often focus on not using the Lord's name in vain by not in anger saying things like Jesus Christ, or things like that, right? And that's important, but that's not the whole story of the command here. So what we want to do is we want to think deeper than language and think about reverence. God's name reflects his identity. When we speak of him, we live in a way that represents him. We're either honoring or dishonoring his reputation. Let's be honest. Most of us aren't bowing down to things like golden calves like they were in the Old Testament, right? But we're tempted every day to create things into ultimate things in our lives that we put in the place of God. Whether you're chasing money, a boyfriend or girlfriend, the things that you desire, the career you desire, the school that you want to go to, all the things that we hold of really deep importance in our lives. And a lot of times those things are important, but when we put them in the place of God and we glorify them above God, they become an idol, and we are breaking God's commandments. Sometimes we reshape God in our minds to be a means to an end. We think things, even if we don't consciously think them, we act in a way where we think, if I serve him, he'll give me what I want. If I don't serve him, he'll harm me. And that's not faith. That's like a business transaction saying, well, if I do this, God will do this. Or if I don't do this, God will do that. That's not what faith is about. That's a misunderstanding of God's grace and his love for you. We often call that a prosperity gospel. So why does God care so deeply about these things? Well, it's because he made us to find our rest in him. He wants us to live out the purpose for which we were created, to bring him glory. Augustine famously said, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." My prayer for you is that you find true rest in the one true God, and that we all commit ourselves to living for his glory, in reverence for his name, not worshiping anything else, but putting him in the place that he deserves to be in, the affection of our hearts, the thing that we glorify, the one true God. We will catch y'all next time.